What is up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and today, finally, we're taking a look at the new core figures by Leonard. I managed to find all 4 packs. It didn't run me more than $21, which is the way it needs to be. It's nice to get a little throwback price when it comes to these new figures. These figures, I want to say, from the information I've seen, it's been said that either a couple of them or all of them, and it looks like all of them, judging by stylistic cues, were sculpted by the 4 Horsemen, which is a step up for me. I am really geeked to have these guys. These guys are an addition to the modern core line, which is kind of a reimagining of the, I want to say, more G.I. Joe-esque late 90s, 2000s version of the core. When they actually had characters with code names and specialties, and they come from all over the world, and they fight. The Marauders is who they fought back in the day. Now they fight the Curse, which are a technological band of villains. And they are special because they incorporate new, updated articulation and designs that weren't done in-house by Leonard. So I've been looking around for them for a long time. It's only been announced, I want to say, the middle of last year, and then they ended up hitting stores right around, I want to say, Christmas time, and I managed to find mine about 2 weeks ago, something like that. Just on a whim, I decided to go into my local Walmart, and there they were, all of them. Now, you've seen a ton of reviews about these guys, and everybody just kind of shows you them. They don't really go in very much detail. I plan on going into detail with these guys and their weapons, what comes in the packs that they come in, and the pros and the cons, like I do with most stuff. So get yourself something to drink, something to eat. This might be a little bit long, and let's get this thing going. So I'm going to go over a lot of little details about these figures. A lot of people have their pros and cons, talking about them being cheap and this and that and the third. I love them. You definitely, if you've been collecting Joes for any amount of time and then you've had your run-ins with the core, you know that they have improved vastly over the last 10 years. I mean, little things like no ankle swivels are kind of frustrating. So, a lot of characters, as you can see, either their legs kind of jut outward and you can't turn them inward, you know what I mean? Excuse my ashy hands. I was doing some actual work before I did this, but yeah, their legs, you don't have swivels and whatnot. And it's a small price to pay, but you do have well built figures that can stand up to serious play, and that adds to the toughness. And with the core, it's all about them being tough. That's the way we imagine them to be in universe. We always pretended like they were the guys that could take a serious beating, like the old 1980s action heroes. They could dish it out, run in with 2 hogs, one in each hand, and just mow down a whole bunch of bad guys like a human tank, you know what I mean? They'd be body slamming people into windshields or tackling people through windshields or, punching through windshields. The whole Action Jackson, old school Arnold, Stallone, and Cobra, that type of dude. You send this one guy in and he'll blow everything up, including the bad guy. When they kill the bad guy, it's horribly violent, like excessively violent, because that's how they do things. But I love the fact that the big guys, they kind of embody that spirit, you know what I mean? I like that most of the villains, the new villains, are big guys. Shrapnel, though, I like his look overall. He feels like infantry, and he's just a little bit smaller, but he's still on the large side. That's something I like because it sets him apart from your Cobra Troopers or your Joe Troopers or your Vipers or whatever. You know what I mean? They feel distinctly original, and they don't feel like anybody else. I mean, there's similarities, but they feel like their own thing. Now, I'm going to go into the details found on some of these figures, and we're going to talk about their weapons real quick. I really dig this somewhat variant of the M16. That's what it looks like to me. I didn't bother to research what it is because it's the core. They're a little bit less involved with trying to be realistic and on model. The figures can't even hold most of the weapons the right way. But I love that it's got a peg so that you can stick it in the back of whichever figure you feel like sticking that on, which is dope because a lot of Joe or weapons don't have this, you know. Um, I think all the assault rifles, like the one that El Jefe has, they all have a peg for you to stick them in their backs so that way they can carry stuff. And a lot of them have sculpted holsters and sheaths on their bodies so that they can keep their weapons with them. And you know me, I love weapon storage. Another detail that I really dig with them is just their overall heft. I know we're talking about weapons, but their heft is pretty nice. It's surprising that they feel so hefty in comparison to the older core elite figures. Now, the assault rifles are not the only things they came with. As you can see with some of them, they have other weapons sticking up, like on El Jefe's chest. Trickshot, he has some cool stuff going on. He's got a pistol on his side, which I'm going to get to in a second. But everything is well sculpted, well detailed, and it has storage, which is dope. Now, let's talk about this pistol. It's kind of hard to see, and I'm going to definitely chop away so that you can see the pistol up close. But look at how well detailed it is. It looks like some kind of SIG or an FN pistol of some sort. I don't know for sure. I want to say it looked like an FN, but it's not. But it's beautifully done. And, you know, it's nice and compact, and it fits perfectly in the holster, so you don't have to worry about it falling out and you losing it while you're playing with the figure, which is, I mean, that's all you could ask for from an action figure. Looking at figures like El Jefe, who's huge and has a lot of stuff going on with his weapons. Got this little pistol, and I apologize for the lack of clarity on it. I will show it again in more clarity, but it's a tiny little, almost Derringer type pistol. It's got a nice little spinning chamber and whatnot. I can't believe I totally didn't get any good footage of that. But anyway, it fits perfectly in his chest holster on the front of his vest. And I mean, there's nothing else to complain about. The one thing I will say is he doesn't hold it very well, but it's like your last stand, last ditch effort type thing. And a big dude like him would be ripping guns off of tanks and shit before he uses that tiny little pistol. Overall, these figures are really well, I don't know, they're just well put together. The essence is there, which is dope. And that's what I like the most. That's the part that makes me feel like, hey, these guys are worth getting. I could start my son on these and he'd be all into them. I like Shrap because he's his own thing, and he doesn't look just like Impact, even though they have skulls on their faces. You know what I'm saying? They have a different aesthetic to them. But I love that. Now, these are the extra figures that came with each of them, because they came in packs of 3. 2 of the figures were worth having, and then 1 was always a worthless character or someone we already have. Like, they need to get rid of these figures, because we used to get entire 3 packs when they were Total Soldier, I think it was. And previous, to that, prior to that, we got the regular core figures, and we would get full figures, 3 full figures in a pack, 6 figures in a pack. We wouldn't get those wastes of space with the 2 and 3 points of articulation. So Leonard, keep those. Melt them down and make more figures. This was one of the ones that actually had posability, and this was another one that has posability. They both are pilots, and then you got this guy right here who I use as a clone of Rucker. The other guys, I think I might have doubles of them on this shelf. I have the doubles in the back on the good guy side, and then the doubles on the other side are villains. I use them as clones, like I said earlier. I might make him a villain because I already have the original release of that dude. This guy's definitely going to be a villain because he's the clone. But this is what I do with the core, especially because the curse is more technologically advanced, and I feel like nanotech clones would be the next step for them. It's different from G.I. Joe, and it works. And since we get so many of the same figures packaged over and over and over, it helps build a team of villains that are almost equal in size to the core. Because look at it, this is the core. These are the major characters, and that's the curse. You know what I mean? With like 5 or 6 of those guys are clones. So, the curse are horribly outnumbered, and it's even more so with these new guys. So I'm glad they do that. I just could do without the poorly articulated figures that they throw in for the sake of throwing them in. Now, the overall feel of the figures, I want to say Impact and Smoke are my favorites. Smoke has a lot of cool things going for him. I like Trickshot a little too because he's got that Duke kind of feel to him. But they did a real good job giving them a lot of individuality, and that's a big deal for me. It's weird when you see a line that's not G.I. Joe pull off individuality to this degree. I like the fact that all the villains kind of have this skull motif on these three new villains. And I dig that because they have that thing unifying them, that motif, but they're very different all on their own. And I like the army builder. You know what I mean? Like I said, he Shrapnel. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name. Shrapnel feels enough like the villains, and he feels unique enough that even if you make him an army builder, which that's what he is, he still stands out from your Cobra troopers and such. So, you know, I'm digging that. All across the board, though, these guys all have a very unique and very old school aesthetic to them. I mean, and it's unique all across the board, you know? It's rare that that happens. And I know I've said it before, I keep repeating myself. Race Bandit. That's who he reminds me of, 100%. I love his white hair, everything. He looks like he's been in the field for a while. He looks green. He looks like Hobbs. We make that joke all the time. And that, you know, he's old school action hero and he's just super strong and rough and tumble, just like Hobbs. Meanwhile, on the villain side, you have characters like Titan, who would be his antithesis. He's like Bane. He's huge, he's powerful, and he hates this guy. You know what I mean? Then you have Impact. I picture Impact, even though he's big, he's a parkour fanatic. He reminds me of characters from that game Brink. I may have mentioned that before. And even though we have Troll, who I'm going to show you in just a second in the background, who's already the resident parkour dude, there's no reason why we can't have a taller, bigger parkour dude. And it works. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the design, and it fits, and it's cool if that's what, you know, if we read into it and that's exactly what we need to do with that character. That's what we feel works with that character. But that's what he looks like to me. He reminds me so much of this dude from Brink. I know it's not 100%, but he just reminds me of that. That's the design style, you know, the parkour style that he reminded me of. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's not that much else for me to say about this bunch, so I think it's time to jump right into the individual reviews. Now, my favorite dude here is my boy Smoke. I love his design. I love the simplicity of it. I love the almost operator slash contractor kind of design, where he's, you know, his face is out, but it's kind of covered by the scarf. He's got his cool sneakers on. I mean, they did a really good job with this design. Now, I kind of did some changing around stuff with these guns. They're not the guns that you should probably have in here. They don't sit all the way in the holsters, but for the sake of just pick up and play, I feel like these work better than what he was supposed to use, which was this weird looking, let me put in his hand and show it to you guys that way. It's this weird looking silenced pistol, which works. It's just that it's so small and so petite and so dainty that it was just like, nah, I'm not going to do all that. But, you know, you can still have him use it. It's not like it doesn't work. Now, my gripe is that even though they added articulation to their legs, so now they can kick and stuff. Let me take that out. He can kick, you know, laterally. They can, I guess that's really it. Oh, and their hips. They have hip articulation, so he can jump, and you can put his legs out like this, and it actually looks natural, see? So, like, if they were doing a flip, you know how people do those cart flips like Yoshimitsu, and they flip? His body actually moves on its own little axis. Now, I can't tell if there's like a rubber band in there or if it's just a ball peg type deal, but it works well and it looks nice. They still need bicep swivels because you give them a cool gun and they can't really chamber it. I mean, some of them can chamber, and they need wrist swivels as well because, I mean, look at that. That is fucking hoopty. Like, what's the point of that? It almost forces you to make them hold the guns in ways that you wouldn't actually hold the gun. So you use the peg as a piece that you hold on to and then put their outstretched hand or bent hand. I mean, it doesn't work so good with this gun. Let me put this one down. We'll use one of the other guns they have. This one you've seen with Rucker and Crash, and it's typically in the 2-packs because it's just their simplest gun design. And even this doesn't work the way that it should, but it's the closest you're going to get with these figures. See? So you have to do more of a Contra thing and put it down here and have them hold it almost like a guitar, if you can achieve that with them. Sometimes it's easier to just put 2 guns in their hands down here and like at their sides, John Matrix style, and have them shoot that way because they can't do the other stuff. And this is why I came to the conclusion that you have to use them in the fashion of an old school 80s action hero, because if you do the other stuff with them, it won't work as well. So that's how I feel about those guys. I think I will give him back his tiny little pistol because it fits in the sheath better. The sheath was actually tailor-made for that gun, and he can still kick while it's in the sheath there. So there's that. So yeah, this is how you have to make them do their thing. Now it looks weird for him because he's not the biggest dude. So with him, just give him one and just have him go ham. See what I'm saying? Going ham. One dude, 20 villains, holding it down. Do it like that. Do it live. So yeah, it's not bad. But his design is beautiful. I love all the detail on the guy. I love the... Oh, I meant to say this because my thoughts are all jumbled. Because this is more of one of my... what we call those... We'll do this as this is a blind fire. An issue I have with this is the peg hole here. You can tell this wasn't for him because the peg hole is it's not deep enough. You can't really use this peg to fit in there because there's like that much space to get the peg in. You get what I'm saying? It's not deep enough. It's got to be for Jefe. But this guy's sculpt is really dope. His let's see if we can take a look at the whole thing in camera without it screwing up. Can we do that? Of course not. Anyway, we're going to take an up-close look at him. I figured, you know, pictures look better than when I go up close trying to do that with the camera. When I get my next camera, I probably will be able to do better in video, or maybe it's my lighting. But you see the details, man. He's well detailed, and the detail works with the articulation. The guns look cool, even if they're not 100% accurate to like real live stuff, you know, weapons out there. He's got a small peg hole that does not fit the gun, so you can't put the gun, you can't stow it on his back. But overall, he's still my favorite. And I mean, he was sculpted by the Four Horsemen, so why would he not? All right, since we took a look at a good guy, let's take a look at a bad guy. We went with my favorite good guy first of the new guys, and now we'll go with my favorite of the villains. Impact here is dope. So Homeboy here, design-wise, is like a mix of the Cobra Troopers or the Neo Vipers from Rise of Cobra, Shadow Tracker, who also has the kind of ballistic face mask that you see, you know, similar to this, and the one of the character designs in the game, Brink, that was on the PS3. It was kind of a like parkour first-person shooter type game, and for some reason it didn't catch on the way it should have, and in no time nobody was talking about it and no one was playing it. So, you know, go figure. But much like I said with the other guys, he is my favorite of the villains. He might be my favorite design, like, in total. You know, there's a little bit of Casey Jones with this mask, the hood. I just dig the aesthetic. It's real original, and it doesn't feel like something we would have gotten from G.I. Joe. So, Impact is dope, and I picture him being somewhat a kind of an agile big dude, which I think is rare. So it'd be really cool to figure out scenarios with him as an adversary for Joe's or the Core or something like that. Or he could have been a former Cobra. You know, you never know. But the sky's the limit, and I really dig his design. Overall, they did a really good job giving him elements that make him look rough and tumble but very tactical. You know, you look at all of his gear and it looks tactical. It doesn't look cheap. It looks well thought out. You've got places to put the pistol and his shock baton, which is perfect. The sculpt on the shock baton and the pistol are really well done. He's just a really cool, unique figure, especially for the Core. Who would have thunk it, you know? So yeah, this guy is awesome, and he's still my favorite of the bunch. So next up we have Trickshot. What's weird about this dude is that it does Duke better than most of the recent G.I. Joe Duke figures. And it's strange because it's just real simple. I mean, you got the color scheme with the tan and the, you know, digital camo. So it's modern. You got a pistol, you've got your assault rifle and your other pistol on the side, or your sidearm. Uh, all he needs is like a knife sheath down here, and it's just Duke. It's your standard hero dude. You know what I mean? I can imagine a lot of kids playing with this dude as their, you know, hero, their protagonist, you know, their core leader, because he has all those leader qualities. He's clean cut, straightforward, like the epitome of what the line is. And the line is soldiers, you know, army men essentially. And he feels like the epitome of that with no like extra bells and whistles. He's just posable. He has the same weapons as Shrapnel, but I'll show you them here. You can see the pistol. It's the same as the pistol, or similar to the pistol that Impact has. Very well sculpted, very nice and compact, and he holds it really tightly, which is awesome. The assault rifle, like I showed you before with when we were talking about Impact, Shrapnel, it's that weird M16-ish type or M4-ish type design. But, you know, he's a very simple design overall, and I think they got that really well with him. I mean, you can tell just by looking at him that his design was meant to be very straightforward, tactical, and make sense along the way. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to put too much thought in it when you look at him. You can tell he's one of those hero characters. You know, he's very well designed in that manner. I especially like the fact that they gave him the modern digital, you know, camo. You see it so often that it immediately will click in your head that this guy is a regular, you know, character. He's a regular soldier. He just happens to be like your protagonist or something. I mean, I could imagine so many people making him their main dude, you know? And the details don't stop on his back. He has a deeper peg hole so he can actually hold the M16 on his back. Um, I really dig his look. Everything on him fits. It works in a way that makes him stand. He doesn't stand out too much. It makes him stand out just enough. Especially when you have him next to your other core members. He looks just different enough, but at the same time, his design is 100% within the realm of, you know, the real world when it comes to soldiers and such. So, you know, they definitely knocked that out of the park. It's something that was kind of missing from the core. They had a lot of characters who, you know, they are soldiers, but they're missing very distinct details to make it like blatantly obvious what country and all that stuff that they come from, what side they're on, you know, because a lot of them could go either way. But this dude, they managed to, you know, capture the whole American soldier action hero aesthetic flawlessly, in my opinion. I mean, there's a little bit of paint issues here and there, like you can see on the boots and on the gloves, but overall, the face is just blank enough to be your, stereotypical action hero. I like the haircut. Paint job on the hair is all right. He's a cool looking figure, man. They did a good job making this simple ass design, stand out just enough for him to be imprinted with a personality by whoever collection he ends up in. Okay, so Titan here. He looks pretty cool, pretty badass. Big dude. Now him and El Jefe, they use the same body. So you'll see a lot of the same things like the leg holster or leg sheath for their machetes, machete, the chest holster for their pistols, same pistol and everything, just different colors, and just the design of their armor. And the same thing goes for Shrapnel and Trickshot, which I will show you here in a little bit. But I like this design. I think they did a good job giving him some personality. The face mask, the pistol, and the knife, or machete, those are the only things that he uses. There is like an explosive, but I think the explosive goes to smoke, because it looks like it's the same color as his gear. I mean, obviously, if we're using these things, we can use them however we want, because that's how we do it. But yeah, that's it. That's all there is to this this design. His articulation is pretty dope. He does not hold his weapons very well, like this knife. That's all you gotta do to drop it. So good guys will be disarming him like it ain't no thing. You're probably gonna have to put some tape on the handle to make it a little bit thicker, or you're gonna have to soften and harden his hand. Soften, reposition it, squeeze it so that the grip is a little bit skinnier or tighter. I guess the hole is smaller, and then harden it back and see if that works. But it probably will lose its shape again because it's kind of, he's soft. The hands are soft plastic. The pistol is very tiny. It's like a last ditch type deal. So he doesn't hold it very well, but it sits in here so snugly that I almost feel like you have very little reason to make him use it. But as far as his articulation goes, you can make him look very prepared to receive an enemy attack, and to counter. He's very Bane-like, Make him hit people with the big boot, like Hulk Hogan back in the day, or Andre the Giant, just, oh. Oh. I want to pretend that this dude is fairly smart. I want him to be more Bane and less Andre the Giant. You know what I mean? Big, strong, smart dude, so that he's actually a threat. Kind of like imagine if Starscream planned and actually was smart enough to take over the Decepticons right out from under Megatron. That's who he's going to be in this. He wants to take over from homeboy Curse, or Plague, I think that's his name. The Curse is the crew, the bad guy crew. So anyway, I like his design. Real simple. I like that you can see on his arm, I took pictures of that, the area where the nanomachines have entered, and they're doing their damage because his arm is actually exposed. I love the shade of brown they used. Typically, black characters, they don't usually get, the dark browns, like, I'll use this, whatchamacallit. You see, he's kind of dark, which I love this for that reason, but like, I'll show you like a, let's see who we can use. At least up until recently, this has been the case. There's like what I like to call safe brown, where typically they get this like not super dark but not super light color unless the character is a real actor that actually looks like this. I'm digging the big evil dude love that they're giving these guys. I mean, he looks like he'd be a problem, and I love that. I love the fact that even though he shares the body of another figure, it feels different enough for us to not 100% be caught up in that. At least for me, I'm not caught up on that, you know, looking at this figure. The colors are nice, they fit. He doesn't look automatically like a Cobra or Joe. Some people might like him enough to make him a good guy. Some people might think he looks perfect as a villain. For me, he looks unique enough to be a villain, and I'm going to keep it that way, and I like that. I dig the nanomachine stuff going on the side. Now this face, woo, he's keeping that mask on. I like that he seems big enough, though, to challenge someone like Roadblock. You know, that's pretty awesome to me. And he looks, you know, thorough enough to be his own villain in his own right, you know? And I like that. He's got his own little evil personality popping through with everything, and I love it. It works so well. El Jefe here. He's the awesome big guy of the new recruits. And as I've already stated, he is identical in body type and his arms to Titan. But that's not a problem because there's enough personality and different colors to make him stand out and be his own thing. He does have that Hobbs feel to him, which is cool. You need some unique callbacks to other action heroes, and I think this guy does that really well. I like the head sculpt, it's really well done. And the color choices, they work really well. So there's not a lot for me to sit here and go back and forth with. He just looks like the good foil for Titan. And I mean, that works. That's what you want. Shrapnel. This guy is the army builder. He is the infantry for the curse, and I dig his look. I like that even though he shares the same body and, you know, parts and mold as Trickshot, he's painted differently enough that, you know, he can be a faceless soldier and it doesn't feel like it's just a copy of another character, you know. They did enough on both of them to separate them, and that's good. And that's really it for him. I love how he looks against his team. You know, he looks like he fits in perfectly. And that's really it with these new recruits. They all fit in really well with their respective teams, and they just look really good, you know? They're good, easily affordable figures. Let's talk about the stuff that they came with. Now, the curse came with this cool raptor drone type deal. It's pretty big. The wings are articulated so they can fold, and the actual, I guess, stand can, you know, decline and, you know, raise up. So incline, decline, whatever. It looks good. It's held on by these two pegs that kind of just fit in the slot underneath the drone, and you know, it looks like a drone. The bad thing about it is that the bottom part is hollow. You won't see it because if you're playing with it right, it'll be planted. Next up is this weird helicopter thing. I don't get it. I mean, I figured out that it was a backpack of some sort, or a pack of some sort, because you see there's that peg hole right there, and then there's handles. So I couldn't figure out if this is the way you're supposed to put them on, you know. So they're kind of holding on to the two handles, and then they have the peg in their back. And I mean, they fit perfectly. It's measured to fit like that. It looks kind of stupid though to me. So I didn't know if that was accurate or not. So I didn't really push it. I didn't mess with it as much. I figured, hey, I'll just leave it like that. But I figured it'd be cool to go Contra style. You know me, I love Contra, and just have them hang. Next up, of course, are the bikes. These bikes, they're kind of a gift and a curse. You know, if you're giving a kid something to do, they're awesome because kids will figure out what to do. If you're a Joe collector and you get these, they suck because look at these handlebars. Like, what the fuck? And then the lack of articulation on the figure doesn't really allow you to use this the way that you probably could. But you can make do if you have to. It's a little bit less with the Superbike for the core, But the cursed motorbike, motocross, dirt bike is kind of um, I don't know. It wasn't my cup of tea. You're kind of better off just getting a Maisto bike, putting your bad guys on it, and having them fight the core on that instead, because they'll hold on to that properly, and they'll look better. And now for the bottom line. So, the core. Awesome looking figures, awesome additions to the core line. They look really good together. The colors look right. Nothing too garish like what we got in the 90s from G.I. Joe. So I would give them props. And since Hasbro's not giving you anything, it's kind of time to dip into your side factions. You know what I'm saying? And the core is a good side faction, whether you believe it or not, whether you see it or not. They're not terrible figures, and they kind of do a good job bridging the gap between regular military and your Joes. These guys are the in-betweens. At least that's how I see them. And if you want a change of pace in villains, having the curse and these additions to the curse, they're a nice change of pace. So I don't think you can go wrong with these. And getting the 4 packs that these guys came in for $21, it's a steal. So if you are looking for such a thing, it's a win. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So this has been my look at the new core and curse recruits by Leonard. This is a quality line, and you guys need to do yourself a favor and pick these guys up. So that's it for me. You guys have been great, and peace outside. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed what you saw, please give it a like, a share, let your friends know. Check me out on social media. All the links are in the description. And if you really want to help me out big time, jump on Patreon and support the channel. Every little bit helps, the smallest amount to the largest amount. And last but not least, check out my comic, War of the Gods. It's some superhero fun. And as a smaller independent book, it needs all the views, all the eyes on it as possible. So check it out, show it to your friends. Every view helps greatly. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks again.